After a pretty wild last episode, we continue on with Gachiakuta, episode 15. This episode starts off with a recap of the crazy events at the end of last episode. Once we see Rudo and the others get sucked in, we go back to the big face-off against the Raiders. Now, something I forgot to mention in last episode is Rudo says something first. Where is she? And then, where is Amo? Right afterwards. Right after Rudo speaks out to the boss, we get to hear Injin just come in here. He's like, I'm sorry to foil your plans, boys, but we're not gonna let you kidnap Rudo. And then I can't get over Guido's face over there. The last thing we hear Engine ask is, what is the prize for this? Then the boss pulls out a pocket watch and he begins to start talking. This is where he says, you're just worrying about the cleaner's lack of tension, Rudo. And as he continues on, it's like he knew everything that was going to happen. And we kind of see like water sort of rising, it seems. After hearing the boss say, I knew this would happen, this is whenever we see the watch turn to 7 and it just clicks. All at once, we see this pipe burst out with some type of, I'm guessing it's some nasty stuff coming out of it, pouring all over the cleaners. Okay, so I am very mistaken here. It was just really dark at that second. These turn out to be rocks. And Ruru is kind of just sitting there staring, just memorized, like, what the heck is going on here? All at once, we see a hand come in and pull him out. Right after, we see all these rocks land on top of the cleaners. So I'm gonna lock in my final answer. I'm done guessing. I thought these were rocks, but it's an anime about trash, so it has to be trash. It fills the entire bottom of this sewer, and of course, like flushed away. Well, all of our cleaners get swept away. No, this is pretty funny. So as Zonka is sitting there struggling, trying to swim in all of this trash, we see Enchin come right behind him, riding his umbrella, just like it's upside down, and it's just floating above it. So they're crisscross applesauce. There he tells Zonka, fight the current and it will bury you. This is something to note here. So as Engine is going ahead on his little umbrella, he sees these branching pathways. Engine takes the right, and Zonka tries to follow through with him. Suddenly, it just rifts all the way to the left by force. So the next thing we get to see is the hands that saved Rudo was in fact the boss. And now he stands there in front of his own enemies. So as the boss was still holding Rudo, all at once we get to see him drop him on the ground. Rudo is absolutely furious. He looks back at the boss and he gets ready to ask him where are his friends. And the boss just goes ahead and answers, where did I send them? That's irrelevant. The boss continues by saying they chose to tag along, and I dislike way still. And this is where you see him pull up his hand. Suddenly, 4 portals appear, and each portal, one of these creators hop in. Oh man, our good buddy Slasher says, Rudo, he calls him out as he's going in. We're gonna go play with the bonus. You play nice with the boss while we're gone, okay? After the portals disappear, this is where we get to see Rudo has some sort of doomer face. He's on his knees, and the boss goes right in front of him, facing him face to face. This is where the boss begins to speak again. He says Amo. And then he says Amo with like a question mark. Right after, what are you talking about? He asks. And with another question, the boss asks, is it the reason for your rage? Next thing we get to see is that Zonka is no longer getting carried by this trash, and he is now inside of this cave. We see Zonka begin to notice some sort of light, and this is the portal opening. At the same time, we hear the boss's voice again. I came here only to share that rage. Okay, man, there's some things to take in here. So, inside of the portal, we get to see a hand come out, and it seems to be Jabber just from the rings. The next thing we see is that emblem. As the boss is talking, he says, my name. And then we go to his face, is Zoldal Typhon. Point blank there, right after, Zoldal asks Rudo, want to take the spear down with me? And of course, we jump to the opening. They're teasing us so hard. And we come back after the opening. Rudo's trying to register. Take the spear down? It's almost like a dream. We see the city burn and even a boulder that comes down. As Rudo snaps out of this, we have Zodal just sitting there staring, and this is where he says, we just had the same vision, didn't we? And this is where things are really confusing. So Zodal apparently has never seen the spear and has no way to learn about it. And this is where Zodal says it's not about what we're bringing down, it's about what will happen to our target. And Zodal speaks about what Rudo is picturing. It's not the ones that you care about, but what would happen to the target of your rage. Rudo then begins to get furious. This is where he gets mad about him switching subjects, and then he questions once again what happened to the owner of those boots and the other cleaners. We have a Uno reverse card in play. Zolda points at Rudo. You're the one changing subjects, Rudo. I don't know, this Zolda guy, he's kinda crazy, man. So he tells Rudo the sequence of events. You're supposed to answer, then you can go, then I go. This is how conversation works. And he goes again about talking about how he hates waste. And then he points to his ear and says, Listen. Rudo's just like, dang. We then get to hear the thoughts of Rudo. He's comparing this guy to a Mo. And a Mo, she wouldn't listen at all, but when it comes to Zodal, it's like he's got me captive with his words. Still in Rudo's thoughts, we get to see him feel for his pouch. He stole some trash left over from the desert, and if it comes to it, well, he might have to pull out a move or two. As Zola's standing there looking at Rudo, he suddenly just like looks off and it's almost like he's thinking out loud. Are you that worried about the cleaners and a Mo? And right after, this is where he asks Rudo, what's your reasoning for joining the cleaners? And of course, Rudo answers to find a way to get back to the spear. Immediately after, straight on some demon time type stuff, Nodal asks Rudo, you really think you'll get back that way? Nodal straight up tells Rudo how it is. When it comes to the cleaners, all they can do is uphold their own duties. And Rudo's just having this realization. As Rudo's just sitting there thinking, Zoldo comes even closer to him, and this is where he asks him, you can't be satisfied with things as they are now, can you? As they stare face to face, Zoldo continues, you want more than this facsimile of friendship, don't you? After hearing that chilling question, we get to see Rio has gotten up in this dark, sewer-looking room. Rio then begins to notice her surroundings, and all we can see is a bunch of these like windmill things. Rio begins to walk around looking for everyone else. Suddenly, while she's walking, a portal appears behind her. As Rio's turned around, we suddenly hear a voice, while two arms and a head comes out of the portal, cringing in fear like a little lost kitten. She then jumps out of the portal. We get to see she has really long blonde hair, and her outfit is just insane. I actually love it. Nothing charming about that is what she says. So it's really interesting what they're doing here. We hear Rio talking back to the woman, and this is where she says, straight to the dissing, and she goes on, you didn't drag us all to remote arenas to fight us one on one, did you? And we get to see engines up in a very tight looking cave. Anders is locked in, and we get to see what he's staring at. It is one of these raiders that is barely hiding behind this box, staring back at him. We still overhear Rio and the woman talking, and we get to see both Santas are together. And the both of them are facing up to this fellow wearing this hat. I almost want to say a cowboy, but it's not exactly it, I don't think. So we go back to Rio and the woman, and she mentions something about carrying on her mission as she pulls out this comb from her hair. And we hear finishing off her sentence, Jabber will end up with a real tongue slashing. And I just knew it. It's gonna be Jabber versus Zonka. So they've already brandished their weapons, and then we cut to the title card. We come back and we see this rock falling in slow motion, and Zonka just starts narrating. As soon as he came at me, I stopped asking any questions, and we just see it, man. It's happening right here, right now. It's an insane clash. The only thing that's going in Zonka's head right now is kill or be killed. Jabber is a straight up nut. Mid fight, he's just like, wait, hold up. He hears like this bubbling water and he goes to touch it and it's so hot. What is even going on at this point? Zonka just stares at him like, dude, are you okay? What's wrong with you? And we look at Jabber's gloves and they suddenly turn green, similar to the same thing that he touched. It almost looks like they're melted, maybe? Or even is it some sort of acid? Zonka, as well as us, we're confused, and of course, like most good bad guys, he gives it away. We hear from Jabber. He says his natural neurotoxin is locked in, but whenever he gets bored, he tests out new toxins. They get reflected. Definitely a throwback to Rito and the Toilet Plunger, but Jabber makes his big move. This acid, he throws it at Zonka. Before we can see what happens to Zonka, we suddenly switch over to a sewer similar to the one that Rio is in, and we see this ball come out from one of these pipes, and it turns out to be Gita. Gita notices she's there by her lonesome. This is when suddenly she hears something coming from one of the pipes. When it comes out, it appears to be just a cockroach. It's really funny because we get to see Gita all excited, and then we switch over to Rio, who notices a cockroach and gets freaked out. Now we go back to Rio facing off against this blonde woman, and she takes absolute offense to Rio being scared of a roach. She works as a cleaner, and a roach scares her. As we still hear the woman and Rio talking, we get to see that Zonka actually got burnt by this acid. So we hear as Rio throws Zonka under the bus for the whole Rio poo accident. But at the same time, it is revealed that Zonka is actually in not bad shape at all. He's only got hit in one spot on his face, and he used his staff to lift up a part of the ground to deflect most of this. Just think about it though. Rudo trained Zonka for this exact moment. We see Zonka then take the entire ground where that puddle is and throw it right at Slasher, getting ready to splash all over him. Overturning Earth! Jabber sits there and stands still, smiling as it's coming towards him. Now all we see is Zonka with his eyes closed as it smashes down on him. He then opens his eyes and says, "I'm not in the mood for this shit." There's an episode cut, and all we hear is "hey, hey, hey." And of course, this is Engine. He's repeating this over and over. Engine just wants his raider to say something already. He's still sitting there behind this box, just staring at him. Engine continues to ask him questions, and we get closer and closer to his face. And for a second, we see something in his eye change, and now we can hear him thinking to himself, "This guy's pretty awesome," we hear. Things switch again, and we get to see both the Santas just hanging around figuring out where they are. This is when we hear Bro Santa ask if they're underground, and for some reason, the enemy raider answers, "Yes, we're underground." And that same raider says, "Feel free to check it with your chokers," and we see Rio trying to use hers, and it can't go through. So we do get to learn that these chokers don't work underground. The blonde woman continues. She talks about Zobel's first order. Anyone other than Rudo, we were told to defeat as many as possible on her own. We also get to see her transform her brush, and it looks like some sort of blade ends now with it. Not sure about that. And to quickly correct myself, it is comb. Now, she does reveal her name to Rio. I'm Narade Hugh Amazo. Amozo? Yeah, I'm not too good at pronouncing things. I'm probably just going to be calling her Hugh, but she makes comment about her friends, and of course, that triggers her. She pulls out the big scissors. Rio comes straight at Hugh and cuts her hair. And the reason that Rio targeted her hair specifically is because if her vital instrument is a comb, in fact, she would probably use the comb as well as her hair to fight. And this sparks up the whole thing where it's a bad matchup. Rio has scissors, and she comes straight at her as she is combing her hair. But before we can see what happens, we go back to Zonka. After Zonka's attack, he still stays on guard, but all at once he starts to second guess himself and check it out. Maybe he did defeat Jabber. All at once, while Zonka's checking it out, we hear laughter and rocks falling. What is this thing? He's sitting there talking about how Jabber, you can do this. He's made it possible. What is this contraption? These things are gigantic. Jabber talks about it's been a long time, and then he continues on. His claws are now these huge, huge things. If someone could force the real me out, he finishes. As Zonka realizes he wasn't going all out before, we see some sort of writing or something appear on his claws. We then have Jabber invite Zonka to now go all out as well. You can't only be swinging that thing. To follow that, we go back to Rio and Hugh, and for some weird reason, it starts off like a dream state, and Rio is sitting there going on about why can't she move? She's just fallen into all of her scissors. As Rio begins to get up, she realizes it's touching her hair. It hurts. Rio says her hair isn't silky, then Hugh corrects her. A plastic comb run through hair frequently creates static electricity. And she reveals her hair isn't silky but crackly, and it's insane and a weird power in itself. We then hear Hugh turn the tables on Rio. Scissors and electrical charge hair, bad matchup for you. And we hear Hugh to finish this episode, but I guess that's how it goes. This was a really awesome episode. First thing I wanted to talk about is we learned the boss's name, which is Solal Typhon. There is still a lot of mystery surrounded around him and his true want of Rudo, but he does try to recruit him technically, and that's something we need to remember now. And the other big thing is we have these huge battle setups, and I wanted to talk about my favorite one, and that is Rio versus Hugh. I am hyped up. I'm just straight hyped up. I want to be there on the sidelines cheering because I know everyone else, they're going to be over there with Zonka and Jabber. That's a sick fight. Like, that is insane. But I feel like Zonka, at the end of the day, out of everyone in the entire cleaners, he's one of those people I believe can pull it out and figure out a way to level up in an instance. Rio, on the other hand, she deserves a cheer. She's a great character and I want to see that fight that seems like it's on even ground. She's kind of like an underdog, though. She is realistically like an underdog to me. Sorry about my rant there. But yeah, that Jabber fight also, Jabber going into that next mode, unexpected. Bigger claws. What else does it have? We gotta see. We gotta see so many matchups to also be shown. The Santas and our little kaiju friends. I'm just too excited. I'm too excited. If I'd rate this episode, though, I'm going to say it's a 9-1. Tell me what your guys' thoughts are on Gachiakuta episode 15. Hope you guys stay safe, and until next time, peace out.